When I think of romance, there are 10 writers that automatically come to mind. So, what a better way to celebrate love than by setting dates with 10 potential ones? Before we continue, help me make more episodes. How? Subscribe, share, or buy me a coffee. I'm sure there are many books we can talk about. Now, keep watching, because I'm about to reveal my favorite romantic writers and the one book each told me with.
I was born up in the mountain, raised by an old grizzly bear.
Abby Jimenez. I haven't read a single book from her that has disappointed me. As I said multiple times, she has a particular humor that brings sarcasm and entertainment to deep, real, and sometimes complicated conflicts. And there's always a pet to lighten the mood, and of course, her cakes. But let's focus now on the book I've chosen for this list. I think it was the one I met her with, and it still resonates with me. It's The Friend Zone. You see, I don't usually like romance series because they aren't a continuation of the story presented in the first book. Usually, in the sequels, we have the same setting but different characters. Most of the times, you can read them as a standalone because the characters from the previous books aren't even revisited in the followings. But in this case, I enjoyed reading the different chapters of the Friend Zone series, which has 3 stories overall. In this case, these 3 stories aren't exactly interconnected, but you get to expand on what happened to secondary characters. In the Friend Zone, as in the first book of this series, you'll witness how long-distance relationships are no easy feat, and especially when you spend so much time with handsome and handy Josh. However, he wants a big family and Kristen can't have kids. That doesn't seem to deter their growing attraction, at least not for a while. Now cards are on the table. Will they find common ground or break apart? There's drama, a love triangle, a bit of spice, and a friends with benefits situation. Next, Hazelwood, the best representation of geeky romance. And there's no better novel to capture this essence than The Love Hypothesis. After an unexpected kiss with no other than Adam Carlson, hot and tyrannic star professor, Ollie finds herself faking a relationship with him. Both seem to benefit from the agreement. However, their experiment might get out of hands, and soon it might turn into a chemical explosion. You'll journey through the challenges, risks, and demands, especially for women in STEM environments. You'll learn scientific vocabulary, you'll laugh with Olive and brood with Adam. This is Ali's best work, for sure. The romance is cute with a drop of spice. Now, venturing in the STEM world means sexism and academic hierarchies, but there's nothing these two can't overcome. If this is the kind of romance you think you'll like, this author recently released Deep End, which also touches a bit of the STEM world and mentions briefly the Love Hypothesis characters. It centers more on a sports college romance and has a darker touch to her cute relationships. It's also a good read. It's the turn for the Queens of Romance, Christina Lauren, and my favorite book, The On-Honeymooners. I recently featured it as my top romance of all times. I mean, picturing having to choose only one romantic novel as the best, I chose this one. This is the most fun rom-com of enemies turned lovers. After an entire wedding party gets food poisoning except for Olive and Ethan, these sworn enemies will set their differences apart to enjoy a free vacation, the bride and groom's honeymoon. Dreamy Hawaii will be the perfect scenario for an unexpected spark, but Alice's bad luck might get in the way, because everything that could go wrong for her does, work-wise, love-wise, etc. You can check my video, My Favorite Romance of All Times, plus best releases to learn more about this novel. And moving to Colleen Hoover, another example of a writer that never gets it wrong, I bring you Ugly Love. I don't know if it's her best book, it certainly isn't the most popular. But I mean, she has so many and they all break the best-selling list that just pick your poison, you know? They are all good. For some reason though, I've revisited Ugly Love time and time again. I remember how heartbreaking it was reading it for the first time. Still, it's an excruciating situation I find myself willing to read once more. It doesn't leave me feeling like a wreck, and the passionate love, I really like it. When Tate meets Miles, she knows sparks are flying, but none of them is looking for love. However, their attraction is undeniable and soon agreed to casual sex. There's never anything casual about sex, isn't there? The lines blur, the rules shake, hearts break, and the ugly comes out. Sometimes wounds are too deep. Can love cure all? If you've heard of this author, and if you're one who thinks romance is rose-colored and cheesy, go to the closest bookstore and buy any book from Colleen Hoover. I don't think there's an author more real and authentic than her. Apart from being very prolific, her writing is always on point. There's nothing left hanging. There's intention and deep emotion. You can easily connect with her characters and the difficult challenges they have to go through. A gem of an author. Woof, that got intense for a minute. Let's lighten the mood with Emily Henry and Beach Read. Let's lighten the mood with Emily Henry and Beach Read. I don't tire of repeating myself when I say every time Emily Henry talks about books or her novels, whether in passing as being one of her characters' hobbies or profession or something like that, her writing shines. And Beach Read is the clear example of that. We meet two polar opposite writers, one who ends with happily ever afters and another who kills his cast. Once college enemies now find themselves as neighbors, both are struggling with their writing blocks and soon engage in a mutual challenge to prove each other wrong. Their adventures soon might cross the lines of fiction, but will their past assert their future? She is a mixture of light reading and not so at the same time. It's entertaining. It has some cozy moments, other fun ones, other deep ones, some banter, and so on. Now, for a more PG audience, we have Katherine Center. I remember when some readers asked her why her books weren't spicy. Her answer was her husband works at a school and his students read her books, so she has to keep it sweet. That said, maybe you won't see spice, but that doesn't mean there won't be flames. In How to Walk Away, there's deep struggle and emotion and a heartbreaking situation and the possibility of new beginnings. Once, Margaret had everything she wanted, a dream job, a fiancé, a whole future ahead. However, her perfect picture life quickly crumbled. She finds herself in a hospital bed with nothing but darkness and shadows. There's always light at the end of the tunnel though, but she needs to find the will to move forward. And there might be a name that'll help her turn her life around again. You don't know how much I regret leaving my copy of this book behind when I moved countries. Yes, I haven't bought a new one yet, but it's in my wish list for sure. From PG to dark. And what a better representation than Penelope Douglas. So let's talk about Corrupt. This is the first book in the Devil's Night series. I've read the first two, but there's no comparison with Corrupt. In a short summary, Kika's weakness has a name, Michael Christ, her boyfriend's older brother. Born among the wealthy and used to live as their pawn, she is eager to leave all behind and carve a place in the world for herself. Michael has other plans though, but temptation and revenge might jeopardize their long game. If you like rough sex, domineering possessive characters, and a woman who develops some backbone, this book is for you. There are troubled, interesting characters involved. This leads to resentment and a sort of conspiracy that will endanger the lives of the protagonists. There's great tension, romantic and plot-wise. There's strategy, games, flirting, and as I said, spice-up encounters. Samantha Young. Whoa, this was a tricky one because I have two books of her that I love, Fight or Flight and On Dublin Street. And considering how many times I've read both, it was a close call. That said, On Dublin Street will win this game because not only I really enjoyed the romance, but also the story behind. For some reason, Jocelyn's drama allows me to connect more with this plot. You can expect witty banter, a lot of spice, a chemistry like no other, a sassy female main character, and a handsome, domineering, but not in a dark way, male co-protagonist. After an intriguing meeting, Braden finds himself wanting to get Jocelyn into his bed. However, her past scars prevent her from wanting any long-lasting relationship. Their passion builds into a wildfire though, with the potential of burning all her insecurities and worries and giving place for new seeds to grow. And talking about growth, you know what's best? This story sort of continues in a new series recently released on Love Rose Lane. I'm not saying anything else to avoid spoilers, so if you haven't read On Dublin Street, don't think about reading the synopsis of this new release. It's the turn of Sarah Adams. My favorite book of hers is, of course, The Cheat Sheet. There's nothing cuter than this best friends to lovers romance. We have a ballerina and an NFL player. They've lived in the friend zone for so long that crossing the line seems impossible. Neither of them knows how much they both want to though. Yep, Bree, or better yet, Bree Cheese, has always been in love with her best friend and famous quarterback Nathan. Afraid he doesn't feel the same way, she's kept her secret until Tequila makes her publicly spill her beans. After they get a great publicity offer that could change Bree's financial situation for the better, they get on board, fake dating for some weeks. This might be their chance, and Nathan thinks so because he seems to be blurring the lines of their platonic agreement. Will their friend zone turn into a love zone? A super fun sports romance.
I'll dig out all your old books and I'll read.
It's funny how I've gone from PG to dark and now from cutesy to dark again. It wasn't voluntary. In fact, I've listed these books in alphabetical order. So who's the dark romance writer? Skye Warren. Well, she's not necessarily dark, but she does have a fingerprint. You can expect a huge age gap where the woman is barely 18 or 19 and the guy's almost 40. The male character is usually very domineering and rough. And sometimes there are scenes that might be sensitive to some women, as it involves role-playing humiliating kind of things. So if this disgusts you, she's not for you. Now, if you can read through this, then check out The Professor. It's the first book in her Tanglewood University series. It's one of her most recent ones. I used to have another series as a favor in case you're curious. It's called North Security, being Overture, the first book, and it deals with a prodigy violinist, her innocence, and the threats against her. But going back to The Professor, here we have a college student having to basically secure her university supplies Pretty Woman style. The thing is, she never thought that handsome rescuer would be her professor and her ex-dad. Her story is getting complicated, right? And what's worse, they don't seem to be able to stop their attraction from escalating. A forbidden love with power dynamics and a secret society that seems both alluring and dangerous. Because that's the thing, you won't simply get a romance story here, there's a mysterious plot in parallel. There are powerful people using Shakespeare as a cover, a secret society that plans on ruling the city, and there are some wanting to dismantle it. Nothing comes easy though, and there's a lot of peril in the way. Just a curiosity here, as you can see, the series is called Tanglewood University. Skye Warren sets a lot of her books in Tanglewood. In fact, you'll get to see characters from other series, particularly of the Endgame series in this novel. You don't need to read it to understand this book. Well, that's it. That's what I call an extensive, thorough list, don't you agree? It seems there's a book for every single taste out there. There's cutesy, dark real romance, excruciating, light, and everything in between. There are sports involved, scientific settings, college situations, and real-life experiences. Take a pick! What's it gonna be? Comment below and let me know. Neither of them knows how much they both want to though. To want to though.